All right, so now we've got 6 different frames for the walk cycle. It's a good time to save it. I'm going to move that last one over. There's 12 walk. That's already combined. I select all, Command A, copy it, and then click it over here and paste it. What was mentioned in the mentorship presentation is an alternate way. If you want to save things outside of your Photoshop file, you can always save them as a PNG, kind of a flattened, transparent layer onto your desktop and then move those into your stage. But I just like to do it more directly. All right, so now we've got all these. It doesn't matter which ones are turned on, which layers are visible or not. But I'm going to use the timeline feature in Photoshop to program this eyeball to walk through my 6 panels, and then I'm going to reverse a few of them. So I go to timeline, frame by frame animation, and then I click on the window options button, which is in the upper right hand corner of all of these different windows. But the timeline options are absolutely essential, and we need to make frames from layers. I can drag the background frame to the trash. Never hit delete, because that will actually delete whatever layer you're on. This is just programming the eyeball. So if you want to get rid of a frame, you drag it to this trash can. I'm going to set the timing. Very important to be able to select all of your frames in your timeline. I do that by holding down Shift. And then I'm going to use 0.3 seconds as a nice default. For even movement, play it through forever. And I get this, pretty nice, but then you see how it kind of jumps at the very end there. And so what I'll do is select all of them, copy them. This is all done through the window options. Then paste them after the selection. And then, while they're still selected, reverse them. Get rid of one of them at the beginning of the new and one at the end, because those are repeats. And this is how you can loop it together. Now there's one I don't like repeating, which you can go in frame by frame this way and see. So yes, I'm following it, all makes sense. Yep, I'm following it. All makes sense, but I don't like that frame. And I wonder if I can do it without it. So let's see, let's take it out. I don't really like this frame, so let's see if I can do without that and the front end. And if you want a repeat of any frame like this one, you can just hit the new layer icon. Here is a new frame. It will duplicate the last one, and you can move that in wherever you want it. So this is how we kind of play with assets. And for a walking test, you have to watch each foot. Yeah, so that one doesn't work as well. There. Huh. Let's see. All right, there we go. And this is making sense now. So I've got my walking test. Pretty simple. but it combines a lot of different elements together. Now that I know what works, I'm going to do something a little different. This is just to show you what happens later. Now I'm going to go to the timeline options, and then I'm going to say flatten frames into layers. And what that does is it takes whatever you programmed in the timeline and it makes it into what layers that it labels frame 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So I have an 8 frame walking test. I can delete my other frames then, even my background, and my animation will still work as intended. Okay, so now what this really is a character walk cycle. So I'm going to save it as that. Not all of you will need to build a character movement cycle for what you're doing. This is just something I wanted to show, especially for Digital 2 students when they do a movement test for their characters later. Just to get a sense of how this character moves and how they will be manipulated is very helpful to see. Okay. Now that I've got that, I'm going to open up my stage. Okay. I've got my walk cycle safely in another file. I'm going to minimize that. And I've got my stage with a timeline that's cleared. Very important. Okay, now I'm going to clear my stage. Take out everything except for the background layer. And now I go to my assets. And now I want to bring in the background and see what I want to animate with that. So it's all about organization and kind of sticking to your plan. I'm remembering, let's see, do I have it? Yes, I'm remembering my storyboard. And what I've done so far for my storyboard is simply the first frame here, or the second keyframe, the introduction of my character by walking in. I've done the walk cycle to be able to do that. Now I need to put it into a setting. So I have my swamp foliage assets here, which I might use to layer on top of. And then all my other needs should be in my files. And I'm going to go actually to assignment 3, the CreatureScape PSD. And remember, this is much bigger resolution, like 13 by 19 inches, 350 pixels per inch. Whereas my GIF animation only needs to be, or only should be 10 inches by 10 inches by 350. Now I'm opening up number 3 here so I can grab all of this atmosphere that I thought fit my character. And this is kind of where I made improvements to things. All right, now I have all these different layers visible. I'm going to take all of them, all that are visible. It's a little crazy, but you'll see how it works. Swoop that out, take all those layers, drag and drop them onto my assets. And I'm going to, while they're still all selected, scale them down to fit the resolution of this file. It's taking 1.5 gigs worth of assets. And while they're all selected, hit Command T. You see, that's how big it is. I'm going to shrink it down. And figure out how I want to place my creature in there. In the same way, I can batch shrink my creature as well, once I have what I need. I want to try to fit it into the square. That's a pretty nice composition. So let's hit return there. It will make all of them this lower resolution. And I'm adding them to my assets. My assets is just a big file. It's like a treasure chest. I have all my character assets here. And if I want to be safe, I'll make a new folder just to make it a little bit easier. A new folder group and call this character assets. And then move all of these, everything from the guideline to all the different legs, to all the different eyes, all the different bodies. Move those all into the character assets folder. So I can just turn them on and off. And I've got a walk cycle in there as well, but I think I'll make another folder for that. And then I'm going to make a new folder underneath the character assets, and this is for the settings assets or background assets. And now this is going to be all this stuff. Move that into that folder. Okay, the things that are not visible I can just delete. So obviously I don't need those. But everything else, even the overlays with shadows, I do want. And I might want to play with them. I could also just merge this all together if I just wanted my setting to always stay the same. But now I have to decide how to animate this background. So this is a good time to save my assets. And I'll make a new group here on top of everything, and I'll call this the walk cycle, just to make that really easy. And then I'm going to steal that from where I have it. It's down here. I'm going to take these 8 frames and drag and drop them onto my assets. So we're really organizing a lot of different things here. And move all of those into my walk cycle. But while I have them all selected, even if they're not visible, they're still, the layers are selected. I can go ahead and shrink that character and move it in. Okay. And then I can just turn that off for now. So my next challenge is, how do I make this setting feel dynamic? I've got the character moving and feeling dynamic. How do I make the setting feel dynamic? And I can do that a variety of ways. I can animate texture fills coming through, but the first thing I'm worried about is the water. So I'm going to try to combine these water assets together. So I'm going to label them blue. So I'm going to select both those layers, and then I'm going to try it, hold down Option and say Layer, Merge Layers. Oh, and I actually kind of like what that did. It got rid of a lot of this excess stuff. And instead gives me kind of a purer landscape here, which I can use. So that's good. So I've got merged layers. Now, how am I going to play with this water and make it look like it's moving? Well, I can look at references and I can try to match them. But basically, I want to isolate the aspects of the water that I feel should be moving, put those onto their own layer. So I can start playing with them. So these waterfalls, I'm just going to do this loosely. GIFs are meant to be rough. And ideally, I'm only going to make like kind of a 3-frame cycle, making it look like this water is shimmering a little bit.